Hi all, it's me, Allison. You know those books that are just so bad that they make you question every single decision you made leading up to reading them? Yeah, that's this list. Today I'm going to be talking about books that I wish that I could unread, and I'm not talking because they were dramatic or emotional or heartbreaking. No, I'm talking about because they were straight trash. I want them to be erased from my memory, SpongeBob filing cabinet style. I want them taken out of my memory and thrown in the trash. So buckle up because I'm about to name some names. These are the books that wasted my time, killed my brain cells, and made me want to throw them across the room. So the first book that comes to mind that I actually read recently is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. Now normally I'm a huge Abby Jimenez stan. I've loved everything that I've read except for this one. Okay, so I did listen to this one on audio, which I thought maybe would help my case, and unfortunately it did not. The Friend Zone didn't start out like horribly. It starts out with our main girl, Kristen, who is like the stereotypical cool girl. You know, she drinks beer, she watches sports, she doesn't wear makeup, blah, blah, blah. Meet our main male character, Josh, as they're both planning their best friend's wedding. So they're both in the wedding party, maid of honor, best man. They kind of get off on the wrong foot, but then they end up actually start to work together because she has like this little dog stool Etsy shop situation, and she needed someone who can build furniture, and unfortunately Josh could do that, so they do spend a lot of time together. She kind of has a military boyfriend that's like never home, who is like kind of a safe option for her because she doesn't have to see him ever. That is like a good situation for her, but she does start having feelings for Josh, and Josh obviously does the same. The thing that bugged me about this book was that there was a lot of emphasis on her having issues with like having children, which obviously infertility is a huge issue that a lot of women deal with, and it's a sensitive topic, obviously. So I just felt like the way that this was handled in the book was just kind of like, You meet Josh, who literally wants 9 children. Ideally, he wants 9 children. And so when she hears that, she starts to like back away. She doesn't want to be with him because she's not even sure if she'll be able to have children. But do you think that she's like transparent with Josh at all about her infertility? Absolutely not. They just continue having this like friends with benefits situation in which she's like leading him on the entire book, will not tell him why she won't let him get close to her. And another thing that kind of like really pissed me off about this book was that just days before her best friend's wedding, her best friend's fiance, like spoiler, just like dies in a car accident. And that is the singular moment that sparks these two into thinking about like, oh, so what if we have issues? If we love each other, we should be together. And it's just like, no one had to die for that to be the case. If it was just like, if Kristen would like stop thinking about herself for 5 seconds, then maybe like they could have talked it out. And if she could have been like honest with him, then maybe they could have had an honest conversation. Because at the end of the day, he did want kids, but he also wanted her more. And on top of all that, going on and on about her infertility, she does end up having a natural baby, which I know that happens sometimes, but it kind of just felt like, do not promote this book about a female who is like has infertility issues if she's just gonna end up having a child anyway. It just felt very like disregarding of women who actually do struggle with infertility. So I think this book was a no-go. I love Miss Abby, I really do, but this was not for me. Okay, this one I'm actually really passionate about, and I actually just finished this first book in March, so it's pretty fresh on my brain, and it's very concerning how popular this book is, and that's gonna go ahead and be Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlson. Okay, look, I never claimed to love dark romance. I've never really read dark romance. So maybe that was my mistake for diving into Haunting Adeline without like easing myself into the genre. Unfortunately, if this is what the blueprint is for dark romance, like, I don't want it. This book is about a girl named Adeline who is also an author. She's moving into her deceased grandmother's home that was like left to her. She's like moving into this new town, yada yada yada. She's like at a book signing, and you kind of see from our main male character Zaid's POV that he's instantly obsessed with her, so he ends up stalking her. It's a dark romance, so the stalking was like not unheard of. Like, obviously I was like prepared for that, but I did think it was gonna go ahead and be romance, and unfortunately it was scary. It was scaries, okay girls? The thing about Zaid is that he has this like undercover company that helps women get out of situations in which they are forced to be in, if you're kind of catching my drift, okay? He doesn't like it when men take advantage of women, and consent is his number one concern, but unfortunately that was not the case in his personal life. So when he starts stalking Adeline, he does make himself known and does take advantage of her multiple times in the name of romance, which I felt icky and gross about, obviously, but I kept going in hopes that maybe there was some redemption for our dear old Zaid, and unfortunately that was not the case. He is the same from the beginning to the end of that book, but the only change is that Adeline low-key gets Stockholm Syndrome and just starts to accept her fate with him and thinks that she's in love with him. Girls, why are we drooling over a man who literally doesn't listen to a word this girl says and could not care less about what she wants, and if she says no, he takes it as a yes? Girls, come on, let's be better. I'm not understanding the drooling over this man. He actually gave me the heebie-jeebs, and I was scared at some points because of him. There was also like this random plot line where you see how her grandmother is also going through something very similar for when she was her age, so she was also falling in love with her stalker, and all of that ended up going nowhere. Like, the plot was actually pointless, and it just didn't make sense that it was also included, and this book was so long. Why was it so long? The only reason I kept going was because Teddy Hamilton was the narrator in the audiobook, and we know how much we love Teddy Hamilton in this house. We are a Teddy Hamilton home. It's kind of like watching a dumpster fire, honestly. You're reading it and you're like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, but then again, you can't help but not know what's going on. It will take a lot in me to continue the series because I found no connection to Zaid, no connection to Adeline. Unfortunately, I think he is the worst man on BookTok, and there I said it. So this next one is actually a series that I read. That's right, I went through 3 books hoping that something would spark interest, and unfortunately, it did not, and that's gonna go ahead and be the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. Okay, this book is marketed as like a high fantasy, romantic, political drama series. No one really wanted to let me know that this was also a bully romance that I have found is my least favorite genre of book. And so this book actually gave me hives of how much I hated it. I obviously am like a lover of fantasy, but the thing is about this book is that it felt so humanized that I could not like feel like I was getting immersed. Like, they go back and forth between like human world and whatever the Fae place was called. I don't even remember, but I really gave this series my all, and I just like do not have an inkling of why this series is so popular. It was disturbing, it was boring. Jude, the main character, is heinously annoying. Okay, she has no self-awareness. It felt like you were watching a little girl try and take over an empire. It was so annoying. This book starts out with Jude and her sisters in the mortal world, and their mortal parents get murdered in front of their eyes by this Fae general who ends up taking all 3 of them back to the fairyland and raising them as their own because one of their sisters is like his child. So she's like half Fae and these 2 are human. So this was unfortunate for the 2 pure human sisters because they are very susceptible to fairy persuasions and magic. They're very like weak-minded compared to the Fae, so there was a lot of putting them in a trance and making them do all these heinous things just to make fun of them. It was very hard to watch, I will say. Cardan did absolutely nothing for me. He's the main love interest. There is nothing about Cardan that makes me like giggle, kick my feet, nothing. He was obviously horrible to them in the beginning of the book. He was very much bully-esque. As you go throughout the series, she kind of like turns it on him and is like basically blackmailing him to do her bidding. It just like wasn't good. I'm so sorry. Like I'm not sure what more I can say about it other than like it just like it's not what you think it is. The snippets of like the love that you see on TikTok, yeah, that's all it is. There's nothing else in that book that's romantic. The plot was hard to follow. The like thought process of Jude was hard to follow. Everything about it was just messy. All right, so this next one I feel very strong about. I actually read this book twice in hopes that maybe if I read it again that I would end up liking it, and unfortunately I did not, and that's gonna go ahead and be Twisted Love by Anna Huang. And I think a lot of people can agree with me because I've seen the comments and the TikToks and I've seen it, okay? No one likes Alex Volkov, okay? He is disgusting. He's cringy. He's too dominating and I found him very, very icky, okay, girls? So this book starts out with Alex Volkov, who is like a billionaire who kind of has like questionable ties to the mafia randomly. And he's like no emotions. He like is such a control freak. And then you have sweet Ava, who's like the sweet sunshine girl. She's like a photographer. She's living her best life, blah, blah, blah. But when her brother, who's also Alex's best friend, leaves town, he kind of like asks Alex to like look after Ava while he's gone. He does take that to the extreme and ends up like being so dominating and protective over her, but like not in a cutesy way. It was like in a really cringy and gross way. So this is a very much like slow burn, forbidden love kind of scenario, like brother's best friend. It was gross and icky. The smut was nasty. It just like made my skin crawl. This is just like the easiest way that I can describe this book. The plot, cliche. The romance, cringy. The characters, icky. The book, flop. When I say every word that came out of this man's mouth, I did have to shudder. He was obviously written as this like mysterious man who has like shady business, and the thing about Ava is that she let that man walk all over her, even though she kind of claimed to be this like independent woman. Girl, like please stand up for yourself for once in your life. She seriously could not think a single thought in her brain without consulting Alex first. I mean, that is just the cold hard truth. I just like can't believe how popular this book is. Like girls, this was bad. It was bad. Okay, so this next one is also very popular on TikTok. I did find it very cringy, and that's gonna go ahead and be Archer's Voice by Mia Sheraton. Now, don't get me wrong, the setup for this book was very intriguing. Like, this girl moves into a new town. She meets this mysterious man who like cannot speak, but she's the only one in the entire town that knows sign language. So she ends up befriending him, even though he's kind of like the Boo Radley, the outcast of this town. But Bree's like, wait, why is he kind of like... Turns out like Archer's like been through a lot of trauma, like as you can probably imagine, but Bree kind of like sees past all of that and like falls in love with him. Unfortunately for their romance, it just felt very like insta-lovey, and it was like really cringy, and also it just felt like kind of like there was like a power imbalance, because she would go out and about and like hang out with friends and do all these things and then come back to him, and he would like never leave the house. She made herself the only important person in his life, and like he did not like expand his horizons after meeting her. Like he genuinely never left the house unless she like wasn't answering the phone and he was like worried for her. It was just like the power dynamic felt really weird. I didn't like how like she was the only person in his life. She had too much power over him, which I didn't like. Also because he never left the house, the author made a point to like let you know he had no idea how the real world works. So when those two finally start getting like hot and heavy, it's like he is like a baby deer trying to figure out like what to do with her. He's never had any sort of interaction with a woman, so like it just felt very like ugh. It was a hard watch, people. Hard watch. In the end, it just kind of felt like Bree was like raising a child rather than falling in love with a grown man. It kind of just came off like Archer was like this charity case for her instead of like the love of her life. So I really just couldn't get behind their relationship. It just felt very unrealistic. And lastly, this was also a very popular book on BookTok, and that's gonna go ahead and be Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. In Icebreaker, we're following Anastasia, who has like dreams of being an Olympic ice skater. And then we have Nate, I think his last name was Hawkins. We have Nate, who's like this hockey guy, blah, blah, blah. Both teams end up having to like share the rink together, which causes like a lot of conflict between the two. But it's also kind of like enemies to lovers. Like I said, it takes a lot out of me to DNF a book. I had to DNF at 65%, girls. I was almost done and could not understand what was going on. I read 65% and still had no idea what the book was actually about. I think the best way to sum up this book was that there was so much going on, yet nothing at all actually going on. So it was kind of a weird mix of like annoyance and boredom for me. I also just like couldn't stomach Anastasia's character at all. It made the romance just very undesirable because of how much I couldn't stand her. Nate, like himself, was totally fine, but there was like nothing special about him. He was like every other hockey book boyfriend you've ever read about, adding annoyance to the gods and mediocre boyfriend together. Like this just wasn't a recipe for like an enjoyable time. Also, the smut was gross. Thanks. All this to say, like I just want my time back. I think I have learned my lesson when it comes to books that are popular on TikTok. Every single time that I have taken a TikTok recommendation, it has been the worst reading experience that I could ever imagine. If you have any books of your own that you wish that you could erase from your mind, please comment down below and let me know which ones and why. I unfortunately love to hear your complaints about why a book is horrible. I just get really frustrated when books are really popular and then I read them and they just have no depth, no plot, straight smut. I can't do it anymore. Like, girls, 2025 is the year of plots. We want plot lines. We want emotional depth. We want things outside of a romance. We want a secondary plot. Like, let's go ahead and start doing some of those. I think Emily Henry is the perfect example of someone who can do it all, and I mean that with my whole chest. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm done ranting. I'm so sorry, girls. It had to be said. And if you want to subscribe, please do if you don't mind. I'll leave some social media links down below. Goodreads, TikTok, Instagram, my podcast, you name it. But for now, bye guys.